Dennis McKenna, obviously, who's basically just continuing the work of his late brother Terence. He's also an ethnopharmacologist. He goes on all these shows, all these new age shows, and just promotes the whole idea of DMT, is the solution. It is the spirit molecule. It is the way forward. Blah blah blah. And one of the people's shows who goes on is Joe Rogan's podcast. The Joe Rogan Experience, which is very, very popular for a number of reasons, because as I've mentioned in previous discussions, this guy is extremely influential. He's a sports commentator, so he's got that demographic, under his finger. He's also a comedian, so he's got basically a huge demographic, there. He's also doing this basically like a rehash of Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory called Joe Rogan Questions Everything, where he doesn't actually question anything at all and just basically talks about chemtrails and Bigfoot and how it might all be true and it might not be true and who knows or who cares. That's always a conclusion they draw. But basically, Joe Rogan, and he used to do that program, Fear Factor, which was terrible. But anyway, multivocational guy who has influence, across a huge number of demographics, and who has been known to lionize, and I mean really lionize, like licking the boots of people like Terence McKenna and Dennis McKenna, and interviewing, Dennis, and talking to all sorts of other people who may be involved in the.
There's an interview I heard him do with Graham Hancock.
With Graham Hancock.
I was literally waiting for the two of them to stick their tongues down each other's throat.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah,
it was nauseating.
That's basically it. I mean, he'll have Ray Kurzweil on, and basically and as I said, he'll just lick his balls for 2 hours, just talking about how great he is, how amazing it is that we're all going to be in this virtual reality in the future, and how we'll be able to just flick a switch on the back of our head and go online on the internet and our brains, and he was just saying how great it was and how amazing it was, and he'll all these people on pushing, and he's at the same time he promotes himself as a countercultural icon, and he goes on Alex Jones, where again they basically engage in tons of mutual self-marketing and promotion, without actually saying anything or telling one anything useful. But again, he's a very, very influential person,
and his fan base are fanatical.
Well, they're fanatical. They are fanatical, and I know people personally who listen to every single one of his podcasts. And when you talk to them about anything, you try and get a debate going about, with them about any particular subject, they will literally parrot him. They'll literally, parrot him word for word, verbatim, things that he said, his opinions, on things. He's not a particularly well-researched guy.
No, he's not, and they'll do it by calling other people sheep.
Yeah, he calls other people sheep, but at the same time, he's basically just a sheep himself who will basically, he says, I'm open to questions about 9/11. I think there needs to be, a new investigation, and something was definitely up there. But then he'll get up on stage, in front of his comedy crowd, for a comedy skit, and he'll basically start taking the piss out of conspiracy theorists and saying, all these idiots who think that 9/11 was done by, the young government, they're so stupid. And talks about how he's interested in UFOs, and he's interested in all this sort of revisionist history and the pyramids and all this other stuff. And then the next day he'll get up on stage and literally take the piss out of all those people again.
It's just marketing
to them,
Yeah, it's just marketing.
Just marketing,
and they have this cognitive dissonance or this sort of dissociative identity thing about him, where, I mean, they're so fanatical in defending him, yet they turn off they listen to that podcast every day. But when they see his comedy shows taking the piss out of him, they switch off like, he didn't say that. He didn't say that.
It's okay for him to say that. Exactly. And I've had this conversation.
He's basically faking them an orgasm every single podcast.
Exactly. Exactly. They can't see it, exactly. And they say, it's okay because he's a comedian. It's okay for him to do that. He's permitted to do that, He will talk about, sometimes, on occasion, you'll bring up very, very serious issues, and he might ask a few pertinent questions about them, but never draw any strong conclusions, whilst at the same time promoting himself as some kind of countercultural icon who goes against the grain and everything like that. And then what he'll do the next day, you'll get a big fat paycheck to go up on stage in front of a comedy crowd and just start taking the piss out of anything conspiratorial or anything countercultural whatsoever, and basically painting anyone who has any ideas outside of the status quo as idiots, whilst at the same time sort of appeasing the purple pill crowd in a way, talking about how, Bush was an idiot and the war in Iraq was a mistake and all this stuff that everybody knows.
That is a big aspect of the purple pill, because when I started But when the whole Russell Brand thing and me first started off, I was having David Icke fans calling me a conspiracy theorist.
Wow.
That's yep, and that's how bonkers these this scene can get. If any kind of like morsel of salvation is presented,